Welcome, everyone. I'm Tim Erlin, Head of Product at Wallarm, and today I'd like to demonstrate for you our API Abuse Prevention feature. I'm going to go ahead and start on the Events menu item, where we can see a list of all of the events that have been detected. I'm going to filter this list down to API Abuse items. Just like that. And once that list has been filtered, we can see that there are 57 attacks and roughly 43,000 hits here. And all of these have been categorized as API abuse. When we're detecting API abuse, this includes malicious bot traffic, things like account takeovers, price scraping as well. I'm going to go ahead and drill into one of these events so we can take a look at some of the details. Now here we see a whole bunch of information, some of it in graph chart form and some of it in text. On this graph, we have the rate of requests, which is really a measurement of intervals for requests, and the requests per second. And we plot out the bot that we've detected along with other bots that we've detected as well. And you can see the details there for request per second, request rate, request persistence, which is indicated by the color, and request similarity, which is indicated by the bubble size on this bubble chart. We can also look at behavior in a similar format where we change the bubble chart to a y-axis of detectors and an x-axis that stays as requests per second. The color becomes suspicious behavior, and the bubble size becomes business logic abuse. We can also look at a similar chart for HTTP errors as well. And then in the text, we can see the source IP, the action that was taken, in this case, gray listing, the date, the bot type, which is API abuse, and the detectors that were matched for this particular bot. And we'll talk a little bit more about those detectors in just a moment. You can also choose to take an action here to add this IP to the exception list. So if there's a case where we've detected what appears to be malicious bot traffic, but it's something that is legitimate and you need to let through, you can add it to an exception list from here. So let's jump over to the API Abuse Prevention menu item and talk a little bit about those detectors that I mentioned. You can see the detectors that we use to identify bots here. And if you click on any one of them, it will give you an explanation of what that is. I've chosen suspicious behavior score because I think it's one of the more interesting ones. In this case, the suspicious behavior score bot detector, it identifies patterns of bot activity that indicate a suspicious behavior. So those actions might include, for example, a bot that doesn't ever buy anything or look at its cart, but only looks at prices. That might indicate price scraping as an example. That would be suspicious behavior. And then there are obviously other detectors. And when we match a certain number of them, we end up with the detection of a bot. And from here, you can click on any of these. I'll go ahead and select one that has a few, but not too many IPs. And you can see the results of the IPs that have been added to the gray list. Now, the gray list is worth mentioning because you can also add them to a deny list and just deny that IP outright. The gray list denies only malicious activity from that IP address. So it's sort of a method of blocking malicious traffic while allowing legitimate traffic through. From here, you can select and learn a little bit more about this bot. Some of this we saw in the detail for the event. Some of it is new here. The user agent included, for example, and you can see when it was added to the list, when it was removed from the list, for example. And if you want to drill into the triggered profile in this case, you can do that as well and see what that profile looks like. So this is an example of an API abuse prevention profile, which gives you some control over how the API abuse prevention feature works. The profile is matched to one or multiple applications as discovered by our API discovery feature. So here you can see what types of abuse you'd like to protect from, and you can make some choices. You can choose a level of tolerance to determine how you want the API abuse prevention feature to behave in terms of false positives, in terms of how aggressive it is about identifying bots. You can, of course, choose the action of adding to a deny list or adding to a gray list and map to the specific applications you want this protection profile to match for. And that gives you a lot of flexibility around how you deploy the API abuse prevention feature to specific applications in your environment. And with that, I hope you appreciated this little tour and demonstration of our API abuse prevention feature from Wallarm.